Their genius touches us. The One of the most beautiful experiences of being co-host with Omar, since he's joined us now.
Omar.
Omar, yes, is how the genius and beauty of the Muslim people have taught me so much more than what I knew before. It wasn't just that I had ideas of what they were like as people, but their wisdom touched me. And I've said this story many times. They have an understanding of detachment, Rob, that is uh, lifted my understanding of spiritual
Mm.
because I was still attached to certain things. And their story is detachment. And
Mm.
uh, I, it went right to my root, like right
Mm.
to my core. And Omar, I just want to, we've had time difficulties and so on and different things, but we've been recording for about an hour, and we're going to continue since some people will show up and Mark has shown up and so on, and we'll continue rolling along with what we're doing. But do you have something you'd like to make a comment about racism as a Muslim, or just what you see in some context that just will add a little flavor to what we're talking about?
Absolutely. Good to be able to join you guys. There has been a time confusion, but I'm glad that I'm here. So, actually, I was looking forward to this topic because it is so important to educate people about this, because some people are racist and they don't know they are. It just feels normal to them because they were maybe living in an environment where it was normal to do certain things, to behave in a certain way, not seeing beyond what they do, that it affects the other person. And so like I'm so glad that nowadays people are shedding light on this, and like especially when George Floyd was murdered last year, there has been a lot of movement and protest about that in the whole world, not just the US and the UK and Europe, in the whole world. And people start waking up to the fact that the people are behaving in a way that is not kind, that is not loving, that is affecting everyone else, not just the people you are behaving bad toward. I've met Rob Cook in the BIPCO. What's it called again? It was called the diversity.
Yeah, just call it diversity. That's much better.
I'm having troubles remembering the acronyms and stuff, but well, we met there. Okay, so I'm glad we met. It was a really perfect group to discuss these kind of topics. And the what I loved about it most is that white people, I don't like labeling, white people, black people, but white people start actually taking action on that and seeing what is wrong, what we are doing wrong. Like, if I'm not talking about this, am I contributing to this happening more often toward this group of people? And like the beauty of the sharing and people meeting there just created like a safe space for everyone to come up with ideas to tackle this problem. I don't know if you shared about this, Rob, but I've just
Well, we talked a little bit about it, but I'll riff off of it because a question did pop into my mind when you said something, and it was kind of me and Harry got a little bit close to it, but we didn't kind of nail it in. You said Some people are racist and they don't even know it. This is just how they grew up, and it was what they was taught to do. So then my question is, are those racist? Because see, what I understand about racist is a person who is intentionally pushing a hatred upon an oppression of something. So if I'm not even aware, and this is just culturally how I grew up, again, and just to be transparent on some of our conversations, when we talked about the me coming to the realization of the difference between a terrorist and a freedom fighter and which side of the tracks I landed on. And there was this story in Dynamics of International Terrorism, that a course that I took here in the United States military, in which the psychologist, the professor, he comes out and he says, all right, think of yourself as a kid and you're growing up, and in your community, your village, the person who's responsible for getting your food and keeping everybody together is your father and your uncle. And every day of your life, you watch your father and your uncle go through the community and receive praise for taking care of everybody, for helping the balance of resources throughout the community. Basically, your father and your uncle are the gods in keeping this community together. And you're growing up watching that, and you become a teenager. And at the age of 14, insert Sergeant Cook and his team that comes in to extract your father and your uncle. And we come in with this very futuristic looking gear, because I don't know if you've seen American military, but we have nice goggles and we got these helmets and we got weapons and silencers and all kind of things that really intimidate the hell out of you once we hit that door. And I snatch your father and your uncle from you. And I take them away. And then tomorrow somebody comes and says, you see what the Americans did. They've ruined our community. You see, they came in at night and they had all that gear. You see, we don't even have that gear. We don't have battle defense vehicles. We don't have vehicles that withstand bullets. They overpowered you very quickly. To this kid, how is he ever supposed to generate any love toward any American soldier? It is now his life mantra to destroy and bring the very pain that we served him. What he didn't know was his father was a mastermind in the 9/11 bombings. So again, who's right? Who's wrong? So I had to get out of that. It's a no-win fight when it comes to it. That's why I had to get beneath it and underneath it, because I can give you a million ways why the conservatives are right on some things and a million ways why the liberals are. Again, it's like trying to pit my two kids against each other. We need them both. There's no such thing as a philanthropist without an asshole who's wrecking up the humanity and the economy. I just know he's like they don't without each other. They are in need, and it's for us to show our expression of what we believe to be true. That's all it is. You know, there are some people who believe it to be true that race means something. They're gonna exist. They're out there. That's very true. That doesn't mean we have to be about that when we interact with them, because we don't believe that to be true. So it's kind of like a little kid running in the room saying, Omar, the monster, Omar, the monster. Well, you know there's no monster. Why would you ever get scared? You know there's not a monster. Why, how could that kid ever get you as riled up as it is, crying about this monster that's in the room? How can that kid get you so bound up in that you now believe it's a monster in the room? They can't, because you know it's not. So how do you get caught up in that? How do we, I'm not going to say you, we, if we know there's no monster, we know it. This is only going to get solved by love. This is only going to get solved by me hearing your point of view, me accepting that you have a reality and a God-given right to live it as you see fit. That's it. Because it's your reality.
Absolutely. And this is created by having conversations about this.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
like,
And
you know, the group.
accepting
Yeah.
conversations. Like being
Yeah.
open to the idea that you may be. I love going somewhere and finding out I was wrong about something. I'll tell you, here's something I got smacked in the face with the other day. I've been doing this show on insecurities with Janet Riney, right? And I, when talking about past relationships, I was like, yeah, these chicks, man, these chicks,
I was there, Rob.
Oh, okay, well, all right, well, yeah. So I was referring to women as chicks, and Janet says, huh? She says, well, I'll use the term women to refer to them, Rob. And she goes on into her, and it was like, just that quick. I didn't see how a layer existed where I had stripped a piece of dignity from. Like I didn't even see it. It was like, whoa. The other day I was thinking, like, I wonder if the reason we refer to God as he, because men tell most of the stories. Because God is an energy form. So that means there's no genitalia. There's no shape. So the only way we could refer to anything of reference of man and female is if the production of genitalia is there for us to differentiate. And energy doesn't have that. So how is it that I automatically default to God being a man other than a man telling the story?
We feel the gaps. We feel the gaps.
Yeah.
You know, like something funny happened to me recently with my friends, and they brought this guy with him, and now he's becoming a friend. Like we sit down a lot together, and he's always wearing a mask. I've never seen this guy without a mask. And when I saw him without a mask, I was shocked. Because what I painted his nose looks like, his mouth looks like, didn't match what I pictured in my mind. So I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, let me see again, because he was just eating. Like first time I see him eating next to me, he was like, he took his mask off, and I was like, what? Like, come on, man. Put it back. I didn't expect him to look good, because like we do it all the time. Like we paint for our experience, and we do it without feeling that we are doing that.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't know who said this. It's a really famous quote in the community. The guy said, "Thoughts create the world," and says, "I didn't do that."
I didn't do that. Yeah.
So that's what happened. That's what happens with racism. That's what happens with like the idea of me not knowing that I don't know. Yeah, like you're right about that. Like some people, they don't know that this is bad. They are not aware of that. So
well, sometimes, Omar,
I don't know, like how many things.
Omar, yeah. Sometimes we're just simply not aware innocently. And I'm going to go back to Rob's story of chicks versus women. When I was together with my wife, I saw myself as a very liberal man. But I had a lot of built-in prejudices about what a woman is. And those prejudices really handicapped our relationship. And my wife had to teach me that this was wrong and that I was wrong. And that shocked me because it was racism, Rob. You asked the question, is it racism if you're not aware of it? It was racism, just like your word chick is racism, but it's not bad racism. It's not, you're not doing it intentionally. So obviously it's not the same as intentional, but is any racism intentional? Is it conditioned thinking, or is it?
But that's where I was going with it. That's exactly where I was going with it, because I remember when after 9/11, when the extremists and Muslim got lumped together. I remember that. I remember it distinctively because but prior to 9/11, when I qualified on my weapon, we shot black silhouette targets. After 9/11, there were some units I went to in which we shot actual pictures of men in their turbans to recondition if it needed to happen to be okay with pulling that trigger. I've literally sat in international terrorism courses and heard the phrase, so the Muslims are terrorists. Like, so I've been in an institution where it was reinforced consistently. So then when I go out to do the so-called job, if I got to carry that with me. And again, which is why my experience of 9/11 was so different. I mean, not 9/11, but the George Floyd incident was realizing I had the same capacity of hatred within me as that which I'm trying to fight. And if that's the case, then I'm no longer in opposition of, I am it. So I can't meet your hatred with hatred, because then that means we're the same, and we're not. Because I'm not about, hurting, harming you. You are free to be. So yeah, I don't know if it is or it's because everybody is going off of what they believe to be true, which is their thinking. Everybody, like it's even if I go and break it down as far as if we take it and talk about money, if we talk about women and men, if we talk about straight LGBT, if you look out and see anybody ever, raise your hand if you've ever seen a relationship course taught by a gay couple. Yeah. You have? Okay, because I haven't, because typically what they try to say is what a relationship is a man and a woman. It's those basic little reinforcements that happen that create these biases throughout, and people take them in and it just forces the way they think with the gaps in between their experiences.
One of the things as we're talking that I noticed, and I'm just going to use that first example I did where I was innocently racist to women, was every time you see it and drop it, you grow and you empower, you grow universally, you grow as a human being. So it has the other qualities, no matter where a person is in their racist prejudice, when they drop it, it's like dropping addiction. They are empowered with a wisdom that is unparalleled in what they will. And that is what the three principles is about. It's not about that we are good human beings or perfect human beings, but it is in our dropping of our beliefs that we empower the essence of who we are and the experience of being in the now. And that is really, it's interesting. I have not had that point of view until we had this discussion, Rob. I didn't see that.
I want to ask a question real quick, and then I see Joe. Yeah, I see Joe has his hand up, but I want to ask you something. What's racism to you, Harry? Like, just it's so I can understand a little bit more. What is racism to you?
Anytime you see somebody better than yourself is racism. Like I am better than you are. You are lower than I am. And
okay. So you don't see
and with that a negative feeling.
Okay, I love that. I love that. So you don't see, if it happens between a male and a female as sexism, to you that's still racism.
It's just another word for
another word, but okay, same feeling in it. Okay, got it. That's what I was making. But it is the feeling.
It is racism because it's sing a lie. It's anytime you aren't this, it's racism. You're racist against yourself or racist against the other person.
Yeah, and that's the reason I asked is, remember earlier when I was talking about delivery and us having the conversation in a sense, right? I don't know many people willing to swallow the pill they're racist if they know that it's not specific to race relations that's causing them to have that bias. Like,
I just don't see that. I just see,
yeah.
I
Yeah,
would,
it's all sweeping. I'm with you. I call it the ism. I don't call racism, sexism, thisism. I call them all the isms. Me personally, and you could interchange them how you want. But yeah, I just wanted to hear yours on what you said. I love that too. It's one because it's the feeling we're talking about. It's a nasty feeling, and you put whatever word on top of it you want. But yeah,
okay, maybe we'll go to
Joe. Yeah, Joe got his hand up.
Omar, you go ahead, take it.
Amy first. Amy first. I
I
don't
don't
know
see
if
Amy.
she's still here or she's gone. Her fans.
Amy.
I'd
still
like
here.
to meet you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
Yes.
you.
I'm using like these new headphones for the first time, so I wasn't sure if you could hear me. So I guess there was a couple things that really I wanted to touch base on when Rob was asking, is that a racist? And, I know in the 3 principles, we often point to that space within us, before the behavior, and we look at each other as one. But that's beautiful because I think it gives us the gift to be able to see beyond the behavior, and it takes off a lot of judgmental thinking from our aspect and an ability to connect to somebody deeper in those conversations where we know that they have the ability to change at any moment, right? They have an ability to see through their thinking at any moment. And so I think it's very helpful from that perspective of being able to be in those conversations. Well, we are human. We live in this world, and we definitely, I think the talk about racism is about justice and what's right, from a standpoint of how we treat each other and what rights, we give to in the systems that are in place to see others, of othering people. And, it's important to have these conversations, and it is also sometimes very challenging because we can have those reactions within ourselves. We don't hear at the same level. We're not like really deeply listening, right, to each other. And I think what's really nice about this conversation now is we're creating a space to really listen to each other and have a deep conversation. So, I guess the question is to me, yes, the answer to that is yes, that the person is displaying racist behavior, right? So when they are, how do you have a conversation where you can point that out? It's like, it's so sensitive, right? It's like telling, if we're talking about women, it's like telling women they're PMSing and that's why they have an attitude, right? Like, so like, how you don't want to say that to a woman, right?
Well, my experience with tell a woman she PMSing is not telling a woman she PNSing. Okay,
Yeah.
that's my experience with that. So you're not gonna get me trapped on that one.
Not allowed to say that, Rob.
Yeah.
So it's like how do you have that? And that's what's really amazing about knowing the principles. I guess if it occurs to us in the moment, if we're not so busy in our head, if we can try to dip into that space, we can trust that we'll say something that will connect them, hopefully something comes out to connect to them in that conversation. And who knows what will happen from there, but it definitely exists. And to say,
It's a great question. Honestly, it's a fabulous question.
I think it's a better answer. You answered it. I think it was a great question, but it's a better answer. You just answered it.
And I think the concept of somebody being innocent is interesting too. The behavior is done, like the action was done. So I think there's a difference between being innocent and being what's the word, like worthy of forgiveness and compassion, right? Like, so your behavior, you did it, like you're not innocent of your behavior. When people, you did it, like I saw you do it, like, but that doesn't mean that I have to hold the weight and bearing of punishing you and holding it against you and thinking ill thoughts about who you are.
Absolutely.
I can still give you compassion and understanding, knowing that you're doing the best with the thinking you have, right?
Yes, it is absolutely possible to give compassion without compromising yourself. It is absolutely possible.
Yeah.
I do not have to. Yeah, I do not have to. I'll give you a prime example. There was a kid, and I call everybody younger than my oldest daughter kids. So I apologize to anybody who's 26 and below. But he's a famous football player. He's about 24 years old, and the other day he got a DUI, and he killed somebody in the DUI. And he was a highly taunted, recruited college player, and all this potential to be great in the pros. And he's 24 years old, and he was driving 150 miles per hour, and he was drunk as all get up, and he rear-ended a lady who never saw it coming, and her car combusted, and she died, caught on fire. The world is going crazy attacking this kid. But I can't help to stop think what the hell a 24-year-old kid who wakes up to realizing he killed someone feels like. I don't agree with driving drunk. I don't agree with it at all. I don't agree with going 3 times more than the speed limit. But I sure as hell feel for a 24-year-old kid who was a professional athlete who's already been cut, which means his millions of dollars he was receiving has been done. I have to have compassion for that just as a human being. It's bad what he did. It's horrible. The outcome of the event. But man, the state of awareness this kid has got to be in it's nowhere I would want to be. So I believe, me personally, the Rob Cook experience allows me to have compassion without compromising myself. I do argue with myself about it. I remember I showed some empathy to an asshole the other day, and I argued with myself all the way home about it. It was like, you're not going to give empathy to an asshole. It was like, yes, you are. That's why you're crying. It's like, no, I'm going to tell him about himself. It's like, no, you're not. You're going to just realize he's suffering. And you're going to keep driving on home, and you're going to just deal with that. And that's what ended up happening. But I watched this man cuss out a little girl. She was 16 years old. He cursed her out about a coffee. And I just didn't make it up there in time to start the fight, because that's where my mind went first. So it's funny when we say, when you sit down with a person and they don't see. I say when we sit down, because I'm just as this short too, off of short legs too sometimes, depending on what you put in front of me. I walk into a room and I see someone hurting a child, you're going to call me a violent person, because that's what's going to come out of me. Right? Now, opt out and open his nose up or whatever the case would be. I'm like, oh, shit, first aid, because that's the love coming back. I'm starting to remember it. So it's like, hold your nose, man. I'm sorry I done broke your nose, bro, but you can't be, I'll start coming back before long. Yeah, extend your compassion. Because in extending that compassion, that reminds you of you. That gives you a glimpse of you. And whenever we see us, before all of the ways we identify the pureness of us, the resilience in us, we can't help but to extend it towards someone else. Even though you may not agree with what they say or what they do.
And you always have to remember that that's a beautiful person too, that maybe got into a wrong way of thinking or a different way of thinking, but it's still just a story. The person themselves, every person is beautiful and good. Everyone cares, but some people get a little lost in certain things. And on one level, your wisdom is just telling you, I don't want to be that. I don't want
Mhm.
that experience. And if you let it go, you'll see something very important for you, how you can change your mind from a negative to a positive. And that's really important. That's Sid's message. Change thought. That's his message.
Thank you for sharing that, Amy. I love you.
Great. Joe, would you like to ask your question? Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, just want to say hi to Rob first. I don't think we've spoken before, but
Hey, John, I think I've seen your background once or twice on a few
yeah,
things.
can't forget that. Yeah, the way I see it is that really everyone's trying to find their inner paradise or their inner peace kingdom, but and they're just trying to feel better. Everyone's trying to feel better, but to me, racism and prejudice and hate is based out of fear. And it's when people think that their fear is coming from the outside and they blame the outside. And then, I mean, why wouldn't they try and eliminate that, what they think is causing them the fear?
Yeah.
And they put that on a group of people. And I mean, that's when we get genocide, isn't it? And that people are doing that. And it's when people see that actually the fear is coming from within them and they're creating it themselves. And actually that peace is already within them. They don't have to eliminate something to get rid of it, just see who they truly are. And it's just the more of the world seeing that, really, isn't it? And trying to show the world that really it is all from within us. It's nothing to do with anyone else outside. It's within us, and we all have it the same, and we all work from the same power, the same energy and gift, and that, and we all have that peace, and we don't have to hate each other. I think we have to eliminate each other, just see who we truly are and who everyone truly is, beyond thought created concepts and ideas. And yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know why more the world doesn't see it, but it's so simple, isn't it? It's so obvious.
I love it. Yeah,
It's like, you just think it's so obvious. Like, why didn't I just know this? And
yeah, that was a very beautiful, a very, very clear and beautiful articulation of it. And I remember after coming out of the intensive with Michael and seeing this truth for myself, but still questioning if I was going to be willing to accept it. So here it was, I had connected to this truth and I had this feeling, but I had no experiences attached to it. I knew this over here was a bunch of turmoil and a bunch of badness and a bunch of yuckiness, but man, I knew it though. I could get comfortable in that job. So of course I wanted to stay there until I woke up to, no, that's not really who I am, what I am. It's like, and then it starts shifting. It just started really turning to, I stop trying to eliminate bigotry, racism, and hatred in the world. I, Robert Cook, personally have stopped trying. Effective, I think it was the beginning of this year. You know why, Joe? Because Rob Cook realized that it would be way in front of what should necessarily happen first with this rooting it out of himself. So when I figure out how to get it all out of me, I'll figure something out to tell the world about it. But I'm too busy working on me, Joe, right now to hate what you got going on. I'm too busy dealing with the hatred I got for myself over certain things. I'm too busy dealing with trying to sort through my own biases to pick up any fight against yours. You know, once I get through all of mine, then I'll wake up to the world's. That's kind of like how I'm going to do it, Joe. I ain't going to worry about the world's. I'm just going to root it out of me, and hopefully that makes the world a better place.
Thanks. I'll just say as well, to me, there's a difference between innocent and innocence. And innocence is seeing that, isn't it? The suffering that people are suffering, and they're trying to get through that suffering the best way they know how. Whereas innocent is condoning their behavior, to me. And so, yeah, there's a difference for me.
Oh, I love that, man. Innocent versus innocence. The feeling kind of like and that would have to be the come from, correct? Is that the come from? Is the difference in the innocent versus innocence the space they come from?
Yeah, and seeing that the innocent is the act, isn't it? If you say someone's innocent, it's like you're saying they're innocent of the crime or of the act. Where if you say they're innocence, it's because they don't realize that their suffering is an inner creation. It's not from the outside, and so they're
Oh.
trying to eliminate their suffering, but they're blaming the outside. So the innocence is in that, isn't it? They don't even
Yeah.
realize that.
Oh yeah, I like that. I like that. So
I like that, Joe.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I want. I'm gonna turn it back over to them because I got about 50 questions, Joe. I want to ask. I'm like, oh, Joe, keep talking about. Sorry. But I love that. I love that. I like that a lot. Yeah. Well,
Thank you.
Right. Would you like to take some more questions? Joe, thank you, man.
Tom just kicked in. Mark's here. Anna's here.
Yeah.
Kevin, Alberto. I cannot pronounce your name, so I'm going to ask you to click on it and pronounce it. I'm gonna spell it Souad. If you would say it, I'll.
Suad.
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 Yeah.
Okay. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
You don't want to hear the proper spelling or the proper way how to say it because it's
Actually, I would. I would.
You know, you would never be. I think you might, but it will.
Oh, I'm never going to try to say it. No, I knew that going in.
Harry's trying so hard. Trust me.
I do want to hear it, but I'm never going to try
So
it.
the pronunciation is Suad.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
Suad. I can do that. I thought you was about to hit me with a little bit more. I was gonna. No.
All right. Does anyone have any question or insight to share? Got some beautiful bunch of people here today. Divyash.
Yeah, I do. Sorry, let me put this
Hi.
thing on. I'm lying in bed here in Sydney, but now we're hitting 7:05 a.m., which is not too bad compared to the last 4 a.m. ones. And I saw you, Rob, with Kelly the other day.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it was lovely to hear you. And I think even in that one, the comment I made related to racism, and I mentioned that I was born in Kenya, in East Africa.
Yeah.
And it's a country where we have indigenous Black African, then we have Indian African like us, Indian origin, Arab, and European of all kinds. So it's a mix in many ways with majority. But we grew up in compartmentalized racism. Some groups looked down on the others group looked up on each other. It was like one big ladder, but generally the white at the top, because of the colonial heritage of Kenya. However, here I am, fitting perfectly into one little segment of humanity, which is an Indian right, and not knowing how much inherent racist environment we grew up in. We did not know. We didn't talk to Muslim neighbors. We didn't talk to this. Sikhs didn't talk to Hindu. They did. Everybody talked. Everybody was good, nice. But nobody interacted. Nobody engaged on a loving level.
Yeah.
Then I moved to UK and onwards to New York about 10 years and back to UK and blah, blah. And I am in Canada, in Australia. And I didn't realize in all those journeys, I loved the cultures. I engaged in history and everything of other people. I used to go in Harlem. I used to go to Apollo Theater, Minton's Lounge, love Coltrane and Miles Davis and P-Funk and Funkadelic and George.
Oh man,
right.
those are all great musicians or black music, great musicians and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool.
Rick James.
James.
What I'm trying to say is, I knew I partake of the world. I love Arabic music. I was telling Omar one. I love what the hell in my mind still creates that little compartment I carry. Like there's an initial default judging, and then the openness opens up. But the first stop is still the default smallness.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful to hear this call that you are part of the whole world. You are able to love everything and you contain everyone in you, right? So the thinking needs washing. My thinking needs washing on a regular basis, and you guys provide it. Yeah, thank you.
No, I love that example because I used to think about the world like this. It's like depending on what happened, I'll put on those lenses. And this is the way I'm going to see through it until I take them off.
Yeah.
This is the way it's no matter what. If these lenses are tinted, scratched, or whatever case may be, this is what I got until I decide to, do something different. Take them off, get them clarified, or whatever the case may be. When we have those fixed stories, that quick piece of judgment bias you're referring to, what I call that is that the old psychology battle of nature versus nurture, environment versus your instinct. And so it's the study of it. You could take a set of twins and raise them in two different homes, and there are going to be a lot of similarities about them. But if one was rich and one was poor, there's going to be a bunch of distinct things that are different about them because of their environment. Right. So that is kind of like that choke point. So for me, I was very aware that the environment I grew up in loaded me with a bunch of choke points. Like, I didn't grow up in an environment that had much freedom, because you literally would have to drive at least 15 to 20 minutes on a road to see somebody who wasn't black. Like, you have to get on the highway to drive clearly to a different side of town to see somebody just of a different complexion. So those were one of the chokeholds. And then I entered the military, and I got a guy sleeping next to me. It's like, how does he sleep? Like, what does he do when he sleep? Like, these are the questions you got. Like, oh, he snore. Oh, white people snore. Oh my God, white people snore. It's kind of like, and then he's trying to figure out what's happening with blacks, because we're in basic training and we all got to go in the showers together. And it's like, you realize the conditioning, and this is why I get so frustrated sometimes with governments, because I think they have figured it out. Because somehow, some way, the United States military figured out how to take a black kid from Birmingham, Alabama, a white kid from Idaho, and a Mexican from Los Angeles, put us in an environment together, and in 6.5 weeks, we consider each other brothers and we're ready to die for one another. What happened to all of my racist stuff that happened to me prior to Alabama coming into the military? What happened to the Latino, the Mexican, who family migrated in, so he dealt with that whole thing growing up in a poverty-stricken piece of LA, and the guy in Idaho who had never seen anybody black until he came into the military? How did they figure out how to make us all come to the fact of dropping that, and within 6.5 weeks, we brothers, and if we deploy together, we family? And I'm willing to lose my life in protection of you. What? That was my first clue that conditioning is different. Conditioning is real. Like, buying into narrative and stories. Like, that was my first indication of it. I was like, oh, they created a more common enemy. Easy. It's why when natural disasters happen, most people tend to want to help everyone. Because we can't judge a natural disaster, because natural disasters don't give a damn about your color, don't care about your social economic status, don't care about your gender, don't care how you identify in sexuality. A natural disaster just is. And so when it just is, we can't take fault to it. So we default and we go to want to help one another, be with one another, check on, make sure we are okay. And then we remember, oh yeah, I'm playing this human experience game. And I don't have to. And we get farther and farther and farther away from it until the next natural disaster happens.
Whoa.
Not a war. Not a war. A war doesn't do the same, because that's man created. I could pick a side. A natural catalyst that has no way to discriminate. Watch how the people collectively come together. Watch how instinctively they get together and try to match resources and survive. It's community, it's culture. That's where we're made from. I'll get off my soapbox. I'm sorry.
No, beautiful.
Tom, I see your hand up, man.
Hey, Rob.
How you doing?
It's great. I get to see you twice in 1 week, and it's only Thursday.
That's starting to scare me.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I need to take a break. Maybe I need to get out of this booth.
Okay. I love what you were just saying, and it really speaks to something that I've been kind of reflecting on. Like, I don't know the military, and I've never been in a natural disaster other than maybe a 48-hour blackout here in Oregon. That wasn't that bad last year, but it strikes me that what you're saying, that the reason, one of the reasons people do respond the way you just explained, is because they have to.
Yeah.
You have to, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I feel like so much of what's going on in the world, we let things, we don't have to, turn off our, cut down our emissions and our energy use because it's, but when we see like we have to. So my thing has been wondering how we can bring the awareness into the world that we really are in this together. Like even if I'm a millionaire, which will never happen probably, if there aren't people that make stuff and if the electricity isn't going in the, you know what I'm saying? If people aren't doing their part, the money's not worth anything. So I'm wondering, like, bringing just a greater awareness to people that we really are in this together without having to like wait for a disaster, but to make some small inroads. And I just think that a little bit would change the world, just a little bit of understanding. We're already in this together. We're already dependent on each other. We just don't see it.
Yeah, but the way I see it, Tom, together is pretty hard to swallow when I think I'm broken.
Okay.
So it's the part of being a part of the team does sound enticing and good. We're all in this together, but my media shows me differently of what happens when people look like me and the police.
Yeah.
Yep. It's like, well, then how do I make that? And here's a funny. Well, it's not even funny. And y'all shut me down at any point, Omar or Harry. I get the rolling, so shut me down at any point. But I got pulled over. I was buying a new microphone, and I was in a different, had driven. I didn't want to do it. I'm gonna call myself old school. I wanted to go in and touch the mic. I didn't want to just order it offline. And so I have to shoot cross town, and I'm in a part of town that I'm not familiar with, and my GPS starts doing the spin, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm looking at, and if you know anything about downtown Los Angeles, going at the wrong freeway could be the difference in an hour drive to 3 hours. It could be, just going left right here could be the difference. So I pick my phone off the, you hold on because we got a hands-free law. I take my phone off. I literally take my phone off and do this. And I look over and the motorcycle cop is standing there looking dead in my window. So I'm caught dead to right. Only with my cell phone in my hand, which means what? I'm going to get a cell phone ticket. And a cell phone ticket is about $75, Tom. Now, I'm not a millionaire either, but I can afford a $75 ticket. So no problem here. Now, he tells me to pull over. I let my lights down. I let my windows down, and I hold my hands out. Because in my mind, I'm thinking this cop wants to kill me. Not he's pulling me over for the infraction in which I committed. No, he wants to kill me. I'm a successful black man. Like he's outgunning for me. Yes. Come on, everybody grab their phone. Come on, man, you could have let that go. Like all of this circling. So my hands out. He says to me, put your hands back in the vehicle. And I said, sir, I just want you to know, he's like, just give me your license and register. He's very short, kind of very tense. And I'm like, see, like, I'm going to reach in, sir, and I'm going to get please don't shoot, please don't. He was like, get your driver's license and registration. And I'm like, oh my God, like, see, this is why they say I got to do this. This is why I got to let the windows down. So I finally give it to him. He goes back. And then I'm looking, and I start seeing people stop on the streets. Because I used to drive a very, very unique vehicle. It was a big black truck that I had decked out and did a bunch of stuff to, idiotically wasting my money, which I now know anyway. But it was very unique. So when I let the windows down, they could see in black guy, and then white cop. And it dawned on me, why are you tense? Like, it just hit me. Like, it's a $75 ticket. I could pay it right here on the spot if he let me. What am I? I fucking bought the narrative. I bought the narrative just that quick. And so he started coming back up. And I said, sir, I apologize. I said, I should have gave you an opportunity to be a police officer instead of judging you. And I'm sorry. And you know what the first thing out of his mouth was? I'm not a racist cop. That's what he screamed out. I'm not a racist cop. I am one of the good guys. I get it. So that kind of woke me up again into buying into these narratives. This man, when he saw my hands go out like this, he felt me calling him a racist. And I don't know if you ever had anybody stand in your FaceTime and call you racist, but the shit doesn't feel good.
Mm-mm.
Doesn't feel good.
Mm-mm.
So now I'm expecting him in a place where I know what happens when we don't feel good. I know, you know what happens when you don't feel good. What's the byproduct of not feeling good with the actions we pretty much involved in? They don't feel good either. And it was just like a whoop, whoop, real quick. And I was like, oh, and we sat on the side of that road and we had a conversation that probably lasted about 30, 45 minutes. So I get back home and I go to check and pay that ticket and I don't see it. And I was like, oh, that's because we had the human experience.
Yeah.
No, it was because he didn't put it into the week afterwards. So the story is he still did his job as a cop, and I had to pay that ticket, which after I ended up having to pay it turned out to be $225 because I missed. I thought, oh, we had this experience. He didn't put it in, and I never went back and looked. So it was like, check the ticket within 30 days. I checked within 10. And because it went there in 10, I said, oh, it was the love we shared. And the ticket ended up being late, and the shit cost me $225. But the moral of the story is that story I bought into. Now, if something would have happened, that would have been classified as racist. Not by the cops doing, though. That was on me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I brought to it. I brought racism to the traffic stop. So there was no other, it was what else was going to show up there? So that's why I go back to, I got to get this shit out of me first. So I don't show up with it to percolate in my experiences. And then when I do that, I'm going to come back and I'm going to say, I figured out how to get it out of me. Now I'll start trying to tell people how to do it. But other than that, I'm just working through me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what a beautiful encounter, and who knows what will come of that, right? Who knows what that will.
But it answers your question,
Right,
Tom.
right.
How you change the world is through that experience. He changed thought.
Mm-hmm.
And see, it's a quantum world, Tom. And in the quantum world, every positive feeling that was negative that changes to positive is lifting the level of consciousness of the world. The first thing you saw was Rob learned. His level went way up. The second thing you saw was the cop finally was able to express something that he was frustrated. He isn't prejudiced.
Mm-hmm.
He's tired of being classified that.
Mm-hmm.
So when the change happens, that quantum energy goes into the universal ball and lifts. That's a little bit more love. And when there's enough love, there won't be prejudice. What there'll be is love.
Well, conscious shifting, yeah, and that's what I love. I love the way you said that, Harry, because if I do just leave it at what it was, Tom, and take my ticket and drive off, he never gets to express that, and who knows what it shows up like the next time. So it was just like Harry said. Once I saw, and then he saw something he could express again. Unheard voices. That's what I'm all about. Once a voice feels unheard, it could show up in a various amount of different ways, and we need to be able to understand that. Oh shit, you've been quieted. Okay, let's at least get you heard first. Because once you feel heard, you settle.
Yeah.
Then we can kind of have a conversation.
Yeah.
So it was yeah, it just, I don't see it any other way.
Yeah, Rob, can I just share one more thing? Because I just had an insight.
If Harry them okay with
Okay,
it.
just an
Yeah.
insight, but it's okay too.
Yeah, cool, Tom. Yeah.
Just that I've always been someone who's sort of been oriented from my upbringing to try to be a good person in the world. But the refrain that has always been going through my mind is I'm not doing enough. And that speaks to the brokenness part that you were just talking about. So I can see that in me, that thought I'm not doing enough is part of that. And so now I can see that differently. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Somehow there's something in there for me to see. So thank you.
Yeah. Remember,
Love that, Tom.
I am is the truth. Everything
Yeah.
after that, Tim, that part up for play. Yeah.
It's funny how we project our thinking into a situation that we experience on a daily basis. Your experience is different than ours, Rob.
Yeah.
I mean, well, in the US, I mean, if I was living in the US, maybe I would experience a bit of like, look at him, it looks different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to be
I
honest,
think
with
you're a
you,
lot
like,
more handsome than I am. You probably have a much better experience in America than I would.
Yeah, no,
You
I
from
was thinking to grow
Casablanca.
some beard.
You know, you from Casablanca. You got the wavy hair, and mine thinning out right here. You know, going bald on the side. Like, you probably have a much better experience than I would. But go ahead, I'm listening.
But like, like it doesn't really bother me anymore as it's used to. Because what I saw is that, like, especially when I came across this understanding, like, I just project my thinking into people, into situation. So what I suffer really is the meaning I give into stuff. I don't suffer people. I don't suffer the world out there, because this is how I experience the world. This is where I experience the whole world.
Yeah.
But it's like, I was in the Foundation of Impact with Aaron Turner and Lita Turner earlier today. And I just told them that I was feeling bad today. I was just feeling bad today. I was in a low mood. And when I shared that, and I was coming from that place, I felt better.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny how we could feel that, like, if this situation that happened with you, Rob, at that moment, you felt in a different way. But once you popped out of that kind of thinking and you just like saw things clearly, like, oh my God, you saw what you were doing at that moment. And
I don't want to make it seem like that. That sounded like that was very profound and a genius. So it wasn't like that. Like, okay. It was, I know that when I feel bad, I'm looking at something wrong. Like, that is very clear for me. Like, if I'm feeling bad, I'm looking at it wrong. So it's almost like, okay. All right, look at it again. Blink your eyes. Like, it always makes me, and at the point I do this kind of like blink eyes metaphorically, what I'm telling myself is, I already know what I currently think doesn't work to dissolve this, or it would not be existing as a discomfort right now. So it makes no sense to continue this thought pattern. So then I put some in immediately. Like, what about this? And that spins a few thoughts here and there, and I could dive that down. And it's just like, it runs I better spark something new, something fresh, because I only know that this feeling is because I'm looking at this wrong. Meaning the information, when I think I know it and I'm looking at it, I'm knowingly wrong is what it is. And that's why
Rob, that's
goes
also
into
an insight.
Say it again.
That's also an insight. It occurred to you.
Oh, yeah.
Like the fact that's also an insight. So bursting the bubble, it's basically catching yourself before, jumping on that train of thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or I get to cussing and fighting again. Yes.
Yeah. So we've got Miriam. I don't know if she's still here. She wants to ask her question. She was raising her hand earlier. Would you like to go, Miriam? Please unmute yourself.
So I guess they're doing some with Zoom, because I don't see any of these people y'all are saying are here. And I'm like, so Zoom must be hiding if you don't turn your camera on now. Because I'm like, there's only
No, it's your view, Rob.
Oh, my view.
Yeah,
Alright.
you go up to view and change your view.
Show non-video
Yeah.
participants.
I think I think she's not she's
Oh,
not here. Or
Linda
she's doing
Lou is
something else.
here. Linda Lou is here.
Yeah. Does anyone want to ask a question or share something?
More.
Surat, I'll pick on you.
No, Mark has a question.
They both came on,
It's
guys.
not a question. It's not a question. It's just an insight that I get from Bob, because I live in Los Angeles area. I live in Palm Desert area, so I am close to that, and I experienced that. I have friends who are, I don't like to say black, but they are in different color. So, and I experienced that with them, and we have been talking about that many times.
Yeah.
We feel that there is a sufferance, and there is like they suffer underneath.
Yeah.
And all this suffering is coming from the first creation of this hate.
Mm-hmm.
Because as we are in duality world, we create from duality. And we were talking one day about this creation. And, it was a little story that we shared, that a man, like suddenly he saw himself different from color. And instead of creating love, he creates the opposite of love, the hate. Mm. And now when he missed the whole game, he has to do something about that. So they give religious meaning to that, money meaning to that, everything just to make this creation. They give great credit to this creation because they create hate instead of creating love. Once we start creating love between humans, there is no way to talk about color, no way to talk about differences. But it was a long time ago, and now the whole game is messed up. So what we can do about it, just raising the consciousness. Yeah. This is the whole relief that we can offer to humanity to overcome that. Just raising the consciousness and letting people creating love instead of hate. But the first time I came across a story that said when the first time when surgeons opened the body of a black man, they were shocked, and they come out of the room of surgery and they told people, hey, black man is the same the white man from inside. And they were shocked. So this was the first insight that humanity got that human beings, they are the same from inside. The only difference is color. And then the insight comes to certain people that yes, some people, they were born in Africa, and Africa, it's old earth, it's all the old part of earth. So there is a lot of sun, the soil is dry. So this is
what darkens,
like affects the color. Some people, they were born in the north of the earth. It's a lot of snow, and it's the color, it's white. So why should we came with this hate? We are the same, but no one wants to listen to that. I'm sorry about Christian, but even Jesus, they painted white. Who knows that Jesus has blue eyes and white hair? No one saw Jesus. So just to give the meaning of that creation of hate, they give it all the credit just to make it, yes, it's true. Black man is different than white man. So let's raise the consciousness and let's overcome this hate just by sharing some insight with people that there is no difference between us. We are the same. And the creator or God or whatever we want to call it, to call him, he sees us as the same. There is no discrimination from the creator for us. The same amount of oxygen is blended in under every nose. The same stream of blood is going through our bodies in the same way. Our kidneys work the same way. Our livers work the same way. So discrimination is only through our thinking in what we have been taught many years ago. and and I want like everyone just to go and share that there is love instead of hate. Instead of humanity created love, he created hate. They missed something that we have to fix just by raising the consciousness. And that was my share today.
Oh, I love that. It was a lot of amazing stuff out of that. I love hearing. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing this, Suad. Well, we've approached the end of this
Let
beautiful
Mark
conversation.
let Mark ask his.
Yeah. I'll stay on a little late. I'll text
Yeah.
my client give me
Yeah.
5 minutes because I gotta hit Mark, man. I can't leave Mark out there. That's my
No, I
guy,
agree.
man.
After Mark, we will
Wrap it up.
just wrap it up.
Yeah, actually, it wasn't even a question. It was just something as everybody was talking, as Rob was talking, as everybody was talking, something just popped into my head and I wrote it down. And it's on a Jamaican dollar, and the word says, "Out of many, we are one." So if we always remember that, out of many, we are one. That's all we are. We're just one. That's it.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Nice way to wrap it up.
I love it.
I think Joe want to say the last word to wrap it up.
I just wanted to ask.
Go ahead, Joe.
I've Rob a question. Do you believe that every encounter and every person we meet is to teach us a lesson, to be more compassionate, and that we're all teaching each other? Or, I mean, you could see it as God is teaching itself for each person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've got to watch that because I'm going to start getting into knots about how God can be complete compassion and then teach itself to be more compassionate. But so my question, yes, do you believe every encounter and every person we meet is to teach us and to teach them?
I will say I don't know if every encounter is to teach, but I do know there's a significance to every encounter. Maybe it is to be, maybe it's to love, maybe it's to listen, maybe and maybe teaching happens as a response to that. I don't know what each encounter. I just know there is a significance to each, and I'm talking about the head nod for the person on the busy subway that you catch eyes with. It's something for that, like every interaction. And I guess now that you asked, if I were to think about it, I'd say every interaction you have is your opportunity to show another person what you understand about love. Like, no matter what's in front or what happened, every encounter you come into is an opportunity to show somebody what you understand about love. And that could show up as compassion. That could show up as, a scream of, "Hey, watch out," because they're about to get hit by a car, anything. And I think that is, it's something about the interaction. I agree. And something about us, whenever you get the opportunity to touch or be in contact with another human being, there's a significance that I believe far extends past what I understand. So I don't know if it's to teach, but I do know it means something to have it. So I hope that answers it, Joe.
Yeah, it's a great answer. Thank you.
So
Well, thank you, Rob.
I just want to say one thing. It's part of the wrap up. Rob and I talked for an hour before the group came on, talked because of the time conflict that was done there. So we're going to break this. So it's actually 2 hours, and we're going to break it into two web videos separate.
That's what I was about to tell you, Harry. 2 parts. Great.
Yeah, 2
Great
parts.
idea.
One with our discussion, and then the group discussion, and the flavors that we touched were very interesting and rewarding.
It's a love flavor.
And thank you, Rob, for obviously you're not too passionate about this topic, but somehow we were able to get a little bit of emotion and feeling.
Oh man, thank y'all for having me. And be blessed and man, just enjoy being human. The whole experience. Like all of it. Just embrace it. It's one hell of a ride.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you. It was a beautiful conversation. Really loved it. And so everyone here. So yeah, thank you. Would love to thank everyone who came to join us in this conversation, and my co-host Harry Durbitsky for his beautiful share and wisdom as always. And see you soon for another episode in 2 weeks. Harry, you stopped the recording.
Oh, right. Excuse me. I forgot I was.
So you have